The morning sun rises gently over the small town, and the air is cool and soft as Sarah walks hand in hand with her son Ethan to school. She wears a faded blue dress that she ironed carefully last night and carries a small brown lunch bag made of cloth that she stitched herself. Ethan's backpack is second-hand but clean and neat, and his smile is warm. Even though he knows his mom worries every morning about fitting in among the other parents, when they reach the front gate of the school, they see the usual group of mothers standing together near the parking lot, laughing in their shiny cars and fancy clothes. They wave at each other, but when they see Sarah, their smiles slowly fade. One whispers something to another, and soon they all start to giggle quietly behind their hands. Sarah pretends not to hear, but her heart grows heavy. She knows they are talking about her again. Her shoes are old, her phone has a cracked screen, and her car is small and rusty. But she tells herself, these things do not matter. What matters is that Ethan is learning and growing and that she is doing her best. Still, when she hears a soft laugh, followed by the words, "She is so plain," she feels a little sting inside. She bends down and kisses Ethan on the forehead, whispering, "You are going to have a great day, sweetheart." Ethan nods and runs toward the door, waving back at her. As Sarah turns to leave, she hears one mother say in a low voice, "Did you see her dress? It looks like something from a thrift store," and another replies, "Maybe it is. She probably made it herself." Their laughter fills the air, and Sarah walks faster, pretending she cannot hear. But each word cuts like a knife. She walks to her small car and sits quietly for a moment, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, trying not to cry. She whispers to herself, "It's okay, Sarah. You are strong. You don't need their approval. You have your son, and that is enough." But deep inside, she wishes someone could see how hard she tries, how she works late nights at the diner and early mornings cleaning offices just to pay the bills. She wishes people would look past her clothes and see her heart. Later that afternoon, when Sarah comes back to pick Ethan up, the same group of moms is still standing there. They are showing each other pictures on their phones, laughing about a new vacation. One of them took when Sarah walks past them. One of the moms smiles politely and says hi, but her eyes say something different. Sarah smiles back anyway because kindness costs nothing. She spots Ethan coming out of the building, his backpack bouncing as he runs, and she feels her heart lift. Her son is the reason she never gives up. As they walk to the car, Sarah asks, "How was school?" "Today," Ethan and he shrugs. "It was fine, Mom," but he doesn't look her in the eyes. She knows something is wrong, but she doesn't ask yet. She just holds his hand a little tighter. That night after dinner, Sarah washes the dishes while Ethan sits at the table drawing. She looks at him and feels proud, even though their apartment is small and the walls are thin. He is happy most of the time, and that gives her strength. But she can still hear the laughter of the mothers in her mind echoing like a song she cannot turn off. It follows her into her dreams and wakes her in the middle of the night. Sometimes she wonders if she is doing enough, if she is failing as a mother because she cannot give Ethan the life those other kids have. Then she reminds herself that love matters more than money, and that true worth cannot be seen by shallow eyes. The next morning she prepares breakfast quickly, toast and eggs, and packs Ethan's lunch in the same handmade bag. He looks at it and sighs a little, then smiles, trying to hide his embarrassment. "Mom, do you think the other kids notice my lunch bag?" he asks quietly. Sarah pauses, her heart aching, but she smiles and says, "Maybe they do, but that's okay. Because it's special, and it's made with love." He nods. Though she can see he is not fully convinced. When they reach school again, the group of moms is already there. This time one of them says loudly, "Oh, look, the creative mom is here. Maybe she will sell us her sewing secrets." The others laugh. Sarah feels her cheeks burn, but she keeps walking. She kneels beside Ethan and says softly, "Remember what we talked about. Be kind even when others are not." He nods again, hugs her, and walks away. Sarah stands there for a few moments, watching him disappear into the building, and for a brief second she lets herself whisper one sentence that no one hears one day. "They will see who we really are." As she drives away, the laughter of the other mothers fades behind her. but the sound of her determination grows, louder inside her heart. She knows something deep inside tells her that life can change in an instant, that the people who mock her today might one day stand in awe of what they could never understand. And though she does not know it yet, the moment that will silence their laughter forever is already on its way, flying high above her in the clear morning sky unseen, but coming closer with every heartbeat. The morning light is soft as Ethan walks into his classroom, his small shoes tapping gently on the clean floor while he keeps his eyes low, hoping no one notices him. He moves to his seat near the window, clutching his handmade lunch bag tightly in his hand, the one his mother stitched with care, the one that makes him different from everyone else. He loves his mom, but he wishes sometimes she did not have to make things herself. Because every time he opens that lunch bag, the other kids laugh. During recess, the children gather in groups sharing snacks and stories while Ethan sits alone on the far bench under the old tree, trying to act like he doesn't care. He opens his lunch and takes out a sandwich wrapped in paper and an apple that his mom polished carefully that morning. Before he can take a bite, two boys walk up to him, one tall and grinning and the other with messy hair and a cruel smile. "Hey, nice bag," one of them says in a mocking tone. "Did your mom find that in the trash or make it out of old curtains?" The other boy laughs so loud that a few more kids turn their heads and giggle too. Ethan's ears burn. He wants to speak, but no words come out. His hands shake slightly as he puts the bag down beside him. He looks away, hoping they will go, but they don't. Instead, they sit down in front of him smirking, waiting for a reaction. "You know, my mom says poor people shouldn't send their kids here," says the taller boy in a proud voice. "Maybe your mom should get a better job," adds the other, laughing harder. Ethan stares at the ground, wishing the bell would ring, wishing someone would tell them to stop. But no one does, and for the first time he feels angry. Not at them, but at himself, for not knowing what to do. When the bell finally rings, he walks back to class with heavy steps, and the laughter behind him feels louder than the wind. He sits quietly through lessons, not hearing the teacher's words, thinking about his mother and how hard she works. He knows she skips meals sometimes so he can have enough food. He knows she stays awake, sewing clothes. For extra money, he knows she hides her tired eyes behind a smile every morning. And now he feels guilty for wishing she was different after school ends. He waits by the gate as his mom's old car pulls up. Sarah smiles and waves, her heart lifting the moment she sees him, but Ethan's face is dull, his smile weak. "How was school today, sweetheart?" she asks with her usual warmth. "It was fine," he says quickly. Looking out the window as they drive away, Sarah senses the change in his tone, but she doesn't ask yet. She knows forcing him to talk will only make him hide more. That evening at home, she makes spaghetti with sauce from a cheap can, but adds fresh herbs from the small plant on the balcony to make it taste better. Ethan eats slowly, and Sarah watches him quietly, her hands trembling a little. She finally asks Ethan, "Did someone say something at school today?" He shakes his head. "No, Mom, it's fine. Just kids being kids." But his voice is too quiet, his eyes too sad, and she knows deep down he is lying. After dinner, Ethan goes to his room and sits by the window looking out at the dark street below. He watches other families laughing together in warm light, while his own room feels too quiet, too small. He whispers to himself, "Why can't we be like them?" And then feels guilty for even thinking that. He looks at the photo on his nightstand of his mom and dad, before everything changed, before his father went away in uniform, smiling, proud and brave. He touches the frame gently, wondering if his dad would be proud of him or disappointed that he stayed silent. Meanwhile, in the small living room, Sarah sits on the couch holding Ethan's lunch bag in her lap. She turns it over slowly, tracing the stitches with her fingers, remembering the night she made it after working a 12-hour shift when her eyes could barely stay open. She made it because she couldn't afford a new one, but also because she wanted Ethan to have something special, something that carried a piece of her. Love every day. Tears fill her eyes as she whispers softly, "They don't see you, Ethan. They don't see what we are made of." The next morning, she wakes early and writes a little note on a scrap of paper. It says, "You are stronger than their words. My boy, love, Mom." She slips it inside his lunch bag without telling him, and when Ethan opens it at school that day, he reads it slowly and feels something warm in his chest. The same boys walk by again laughing, but this time Ethan doesn't react. He folds the note and puts it in his pocket, holding it like a secret shield. After school, he walks outside and sees his mom, waiting as always, her eyes tired but her smile bright. He runs to her and hugs her tight, surprising her. She laughs softly and asks, "What's this for?" "Nothing," he says, "just because." But inside he knows it's for everything. As they drive home, Sarah hums softly a tune her husband used to sing before he left. And though she doesn't know why, a strange feeling rises inside her like a whisper in the wind. Something is coming. Something that will change everything forever, though she cannot see it yet, though it waits far beyond the clouds where a sound of thunder will soon carry a miracle straight to them. The sun rises behind gray clouds, and the wind feels cooler that morning as Sarah walks to the bus stop for her cleaning job, her worn-out shoes pressing against the wet pavement with quiet determination. Her mind is busy with worries about bills, about rent, about Ethan's sadness at school, and she whispers a short prayer for strength as the bus comes to a stop with a squeak and sigh of air. She climbs aboard and sits by the window, staring outside, watching the world blur by, thinking of how life once felt lighter when Daniel was still around, when laughter filled their small house instead of silence. At work, the smell of disinfectant fills the big office building, and the echo of her mop against the tiles is the only sound she hears. She hums softly to herself, trying to push away thoughts of loneliness and fear, when suddenly her phone buzzes inside her pocket, making her jump. She wipes her hands quickly on her apron and answers without checking the number, her voice soft and cautious. "Hello, this is Sarah." A deep voice responds on the other end, calm and steady. "Is this Mrs. Sarah Bennett?" "Yes, who is this?" she asks, her heart tightening slightly. "This is Captain Lewis from the United States Army. We have been trying to reach you." For a second, Sarah cannot breathe. Her fingers grip the phone so hard it nearly slips from her hand. Her voice trembles as she speaks. "Yes, this is me. What is this about? Is something wrong?" Captain Lewis pauses before saying, "We have some important information regarding your husband, Sergeant Daniel Bennett." Sarah feels her legs weaken. Her vision blurs. She leans against the wall to keep from falling, her voice barely a whisper, "But he was declared missing years ago." "Yes, ma'am," the captain says quietly. "We understand and we are sorry for the confusion, but there has been new development. Please come to the base tomorrow morning at 10. Bring your son with you. It is very important." Her heart pounds so loudly she can barely hear her own voice as she asks, "Is he alive? Is he really alive?" The captain replies, "Ma'am, it's best we talk in person. Please come tomorrow. We will explain everything." When the call ends, Sarah stands still for a long time, the mop slipping from her hand, the bucket tipping over, and water spreading across the floor. She doesn't even notice as her co-workers look at her with concern. Ryu walks slowly to the window, her mind racing like a storm. Could it really be true? Could Daniel be alive after all these years? She remembers the day the officers came to her door years ago, with solemn faces telling her he was missing in action, and how she held Ethan as they both cried until the night turned silent. Since then she had lived with only memories and a folded flag on a shelf, but never stopped hoping, never stopped dreaming that somehow he might come back. That night she cooks dinner. Without really tasting the food, her hands shaking every time she picks up a spoon, Ethan notices right away. "Mom, are you okay?" he asks. She looks at him with eyes full of tears and smiles. The brightest smile he has seen in a long time. Something wonderful might be happening, she says softly. He tilts his head, confused. "What do you mean?" Sarah reaches across the table and takes his small hand. "Tomorrow, we are going to the army base. They called about your dad." Ethan freezes his fork, drops onto the plate, the sound echoing in the tiny kitchen. "What do you mean, my dad?" "But Mom." "They said I know what they said," she interrupts gently, "but maybe they were wrong. Maybe he's still out there." Ethan's heart beats fast and he can barely breathe as he asks, "Do you really think he's alive?" I don't know, she whispers, but we have to find out. That night, neither of them sleeps much. Sarah lies awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Daniel's laugh, his strong arms, the promise he made before he left, that he would come home no matter what. Ethan sleeps beside her on the couch, afraid to close his eyes, afraid that if he dreams too deeply, the hope might vanish. When he wakes, morning comes cold and gray. Sarah dresses carefully, choosing her best, clothes a simple white blouse and dark skirt, and brushes Ethan's hair neatly. As they drive toward the army base in their small car, the same mothers from school pass her on the road in their shiny SUVs. One of them glances her way and smirks, unaware of the storm of emotion in Sarah's heart. She doesn't care this time, she just keeps driving, gripping the wheel as the base gate grows closer in the distance, guarded and tall. Her heart thumps like a drum in her chest with every mile. When they finally reach the entrance, a soldier checks their names and waves them through Sarah's hands. Shake as she parks and takes Ethan's hand together. They walk toward the big gray building. Inside, the hallway smells of metal and paper and echoing voices. Captain Lewis steps forward, tall and serious, his expression gentle when he sees them. Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming. He says, please follow me. Sarah swallows hard as she looks at Ethan, whose eyes are wide with both fear and hope. She nods and takes a deep breath before following the captain down the long corridor, every step echoing like thunder in her ears. She can feel it in her bones that something life-changing is waiting just beyond the next door. Something that will rewrite everything she thought she knew about loss, about love, and about miracles that refused to die. The air around the army base feels heavy as Sarah and Ethan follow Captain Lewis down the long gray hallway, the walls covered with photos of soldiers smiling, in uniforms and medals shining under the dim lights. Ethan walks quietly, gripping his mother's hand, his eyes wide as if he knows something extraordinary is about to happen, but he doesn't understand what it is. Captain Lewis stops in front of a door marked with gold letters and turns toward them, his voice calm and careful before we go inside. I need to prepare you both, he says gently. What you are about to see may feel overwhelming, but please remember, you are safe. Sarah's heart pounds. She feels her knees tremble, but she nods slowly, her hand shaking as she holds Ethan closer. When the door opens, she sees a large room with flags hanging from the ceiling and a few officers standing silently around a table. On the table there are photos and papers and one single object that makes Sarah's breath catch, the same silver bracelet Daniel wore the day he left for his final mission. She steps closer, her voice trembling. Is this really his? Captain Lewis nods. Yes, ma'am, we found it during a recent recovery mission, along with other evidence that confirms he survived the attack 5 years ago and that he was taken in by locals near the border. He has been receiving medical care and has just been cleared to return home. The room spins for a moment and Sarah grips the table to keep herself standing. Tears fill her eyes, but she cannot speak. Ethan looks up at her, his voice small and fragile. Does that mean Dad is coming home? Captain Lewis smiles softly. Yes. Son, your father is alive and he is on his way here right now. Sarah gasps, her hands covering her mouth as if afraid to believe. Her heart races faster than it ever has. She feels every emotion at once. Disbelief, joy, fear. Hope. Captain Lewis says he will arrive today by transport helicopter, and we thought it would be best if his family was there to welcome him. Sarah nods again, still unable to speak, and Ethan's face lights up brighter than the sun. They sit together in the waiting room, their hearts pounding. In rhythm, the sound of distant engines growing louder as minutes stretch into hours. Sarah's mind fills with memories of Daniel holding Ethan as a baby, promising to come home, of his laugh, of the night he left in uniform, waving goodbye as she cried quietly behind the door. Now all of it feels like a dream returning from far away. By the afternoon, the sky outside the base turns golden, the air buzzing with quiet excitement as officers move around preparing for the arrival. Captain Lewis returns, his voice firm but kind. Mrs. Bennett, Sergeant Bennett is about 10 minutes out. Sarah feels her breath catch again. She squeezes Ethan's hand, whispering, Your dad is coming. Ethan smiles, but tears fall down his cheeks, and he doesn't even Try to stop them. Moments later, a deep rumbling sound fills the air. It begins faint but quickly grows louder. The kind of sound that shakes the ground and makes everyone look up instinctively. Soldiers step outside, forming a line, as the wind from the helicopter blades sweeps across the field, sending dust and leaves swirling through the air. Sarah and Ethan walk out slowly, the sunlight almost blinding as they stand side by side, watching the huge green helicopter descend from the sky like a bird returning from war. Ethan covers his ears from the roar, but his eyes never leave the aircraft. Sarah's hair whips across her face as the machine lands and the door begins to open. For a long moment, no one moves. The sound of the blades fills every space. Then a figure steps out in full uniform, tall, strong, moving carefully down the ramp. Sarah's heart nearly stops, her lips tremble as she whispers, "Daniel." The man removes his helmet, his eyes searching the crowd until they find hers and everything freezes. Ethan breaks into a run, shouting, "Dad," his voice cutting through the noise. The soldier's face breaks into a smile, and he kneels down, arms wide open, as Ethan crashes into him, tears and laughter mixing in the wind. Sarah stands frozen for a second, then runs forward, her own tears falling freely as Daniel pulls both of them into his arms. The soldiers nearby smile quietly. Some wipe their eyes, others salute respectfully, as the family holds on to each other tightly. Daniel whispers, "I promised I would come home, and I kept my promise." Sarah can barely speak through her sobs. "You did. You really did." Ethan clings to his father's neck, his heart beating faster than ever after what feels like forever. Daniel stands and looks at Sarah, his eyes filled with pride and love. "You raised him well," he says softly. "You kept our world alive." Sarah shakes her head. "No, we did it together. Even when you were far away, I felt you with us." Every day, Captain Lewis steps forward quietly. "Sergeant Bennett, welcome home, sir." Daniel salutes him and nods, then turns back to his family, the wind from the helicopter slowly fading into silence. Sarah looks around and realizes that the same mothers from school are nearby across the street, waiting to pick up their kids, staring in shock as the helicopter stands on the field, and soldiers salute her husband. She feels the moment stretch like time itself slowing down. The women who once mocked her now stand frozen, watching her family reunited under the wide-open sky. For the first time in years, Sarah smiles, not out of pain or struggle, but out of pure peace, knowing that her life, her love, and her truth have spoken louder than any cruel whisper could ever reach. And above them, the helicopter blades spin slower and slower until the air grows, still carrying away the sound of laughter and replacing it with awe. The sun hangs low above the school field, painting the sky with soft gold and pink as the great helicopter rests quietly, its blades slowing to a gentle spin, while a warm breeze carries the sound of children whispering and parents gasping. Everyone who had come to pick up their kids is now frozen in place, their eyes wide, their voices hushed as they watch the scene unfold in front of them, a moment that feels like something out of a movie. Sarah stands beside Daniel, still holding his hand, afraid that if she lets go even for a second, he might vanish like a dream. She has had too many times before. Ethan clings to his father's leg, his small face pressed against the rough fabric of Daniel's uniform, refusing to let go. The same mothers who used to laugh at Sarah stand a few feet away, their perfect hair fluttering in the wind, their designer sunglasses doing nothing to hide their shock. One of them whispers, "Is that her husband? I thought he was gone." And another replies, "He's a soldier, a real soldier." Their voices fade away as Daniel turns toward them, his posture straight and proud, but his eyes soft when they meet Sarah's. Captain Lewis steps forward, saluting sharply, and says, "Sergeant Bennett, welcome home, sir. You and your family have shown incredible courage. We are honored to have you back." Daniel nods, "Thank you, Captain." But his gaze never leaves Sarah and Ethan. The soldiers begin to step away, giving the family space while curious faces peek from the school windows, children pressing their hands against the glass to see what is happening. Sarah's heart beats faster as she hears whispers growing around them. She can feel every eye on her, but for once she doesn't care. She only sees her husband standing beside her, alive and real. Daniel kneels down in front of Ethan and places his hands on his son's shoulders, his voice deep and full of emotion. I missed so many birthdays, so many moments, but I thought of you every single day. Ethan's eyes fill with tears again. I knew you'd come back, Dad. Mom said you would. Daniel smiles and hugs him tightly again, whispering, You have her strength. That's why you never gave up. Sarah wipes her eyes, unable to stop crying, though her tears now feel warm and light, not heavy like before. She hears someone behind her say, quietly, That's the woman we laughed at, and guilt rises in their voices, but she doesn't turn around. She doesn't need to see them. All she feels is the pride of standing beside the man who risked everything and came home. A few minutes later, the school principal walks out, his suit fluttering in the wind, his expression unsure as he approaches the family. Mrs. Bennett, we had no idea, he says softly, looking at Daniel. We are deeply honored. Please, if you and your husband would like, we can hold a small ceremony tomorrow to welcome him properly. The students would love to meet a real hero. Sarah glances at Daniel, who smiles faintly. That would mean a lot, sir. Thank you. As they begin to walk back toward the car, the other mothers finally step closer, their earlier arrogance gone, replaced with nervous smiles and awkward words. One of them speaks first, Sarah. We are so sorry, we didn't know, we just thought you were struggling, and she hesitates, her voice trembling. Sarah looks at them, kindly, her eyes calm and steady. It's all right, she says simply, you didn't have to know. Another mother adds, Your husband is brave, we respect that, truly we do. Sarah nods but doesn't say much. She has no need to prove anything anymore. When they reach the car, Daniel pauses, looking around, taking in every small detail, the street, the school, the laughter of children. He breathes deeply, as if he has been holding his breath for years, and finally lets it out. You did good, Sarah, he says quietly. I can see how much you held everything together. She looks up at him, her smile trembling. I tried. She whispers, For Ethan, for us. He wraps his arm around her shoulders and kisses her forehead, whispering, You didn't just try. You made it. You gave him hope when I couldn't be here. That night, back at their small apartment, the three of them sit close together at the kitchen table, sharing a meal for the first time in years. The light flickers softly. The smell of food fills the air, and Ethan laughs for the first time in what feels like forever. Sarah watches Daniel tell stories of the soldiers he met, the places he saw, the long nights when he thought only of home. Her heart aches at the thought of what he endured, but she is grateful that fate has brought him back. Outside the window, the city hums quietly, unaware that a miracle has unfolded inside the little apartment. Daniel reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small metal tag, worn and scratched. He places it in Ethan's hand, saying, This kept me safe all those years now. It's yours to remind you that bravery comes from love, not fear. Ethan stares at it wide-eyed, promising he will never lose it. Later that night, after Ethan falls asleep, Daniel and Sarah step out onto the balcony. The stars shine above them, clear and bright, and Daniel holds her hand tightly. I used to dream of this moment, he whispers, thinking maybe it would never come. She leans her head on his shoulder, whispering, You came back, and that's all that matters. Behind them, the gentle sound of the city fades as a soft breeze moves through the night. And though Sarah knows the world may still judge and whisper, she also knows nothing will ever hurt again the way it once did. Because now her life is proof that no matter how broken things seem, miracles can land right in front of you, carried by the wind of faith and the power of love.